Orthodox Christianity is the Christianity that began the whole religion. It is really the origin of Catholicism and Protestantism and the very many forms of Christianity that are practiced today. The word icon is just the word for an image, but in the Orthodox context, an image of a holy figure, a holy subject through which a person prays. So which one shall I choose? There's so many of them. A northern Greek icon of the Mother of God, Mary, on her deathbed. But in Orthodoxy they don't call it dying, they call it a dormition, a falling to sleep. And we see the disciples' love for her, and we can also see ordinary people's love for her because the bottom of the icon is so worn away that there's almost nothing left of it. Okay, we'll go up this way. So the icon tradition is not known for its humour. It's a tradition of extreme seriousness. Nevertheless, sometimes the seriousness is sort of funny. We have, for example, the life of St. John the Hermit, a holy figure who took his disciples to isolated parts of the world. And at one point, he misses the boat and his disciples go on to another island and John is stranded. And so what does he do? He turns his cloak into a boat and he sails across on his knees in double quick time to catch up with the others. In this exhibition there are 119 icons and they range from the 14th century to the 19th century. The oldest icon on display in this exhibition is a bit of a mystery to all of us. We know it's an image of the Mother of God, Mary. The top layer is 14th century, but wood testing tells us that the panel itself is 13th century, and so it's a complete mystery as to what images lay underneath it. Traditionally, icons were painted by people who lived a holy life, and most often people who lived within a monastery. The whole process of making an icon is an act of prayer. So with a typical icon that's painted on wood, whoever makes the icon will go and select that wood, have it seasoned properly, join it into a plank, often support that plank at the back so it doesn't ever warp because you have to keep the image flat. But the bigger the plank, the more likely it is to warp over centuries, and this one has gone from flat to very bowed. The icon painter will then possibly hollow out a shallow recess called an ark or a kovcheg, and it creates a sort of a boat, ark meaning boat, for the holy image to lay in, meaning it's a very sort of special container for the holy image. And the outside part of the image is something you can actually handle, but the inside image is sort of sitting within a heavenly realm. The icon painter would start to apply colour, and that colour will often be pigments that he or she has ground themselves. You add it to egg yolk, and that creates a paint that will last for centuries, far more long-lasting than oil on canvas. So these icons here will far outlast the paintings on canvas in the rest of the building. So we're in a room that has some of the key icons of the Orthodox Church, and there are very important figures such as St. Mark, who wrote one of the Gospels, and so they wrote the first story of Christianity. But the really important images in Orthodoxy are the images of Christ, his mother, and St. John the Baptist. So that everything you need to pray with is here in this trio. Many people would say that the icon tradition is the most symbolic tradition of all. It turns its back on naturalism, on realistic perspective of the Renaissance, and it works almost completely in symbols. Red is highly symbolic of Christ's sacrifice and celebration, so you'll get it in images of death, but also images of birth and celebration. The image of the holy figure is an image of someone who lives in heaven. They don't need a physical body. They're long and they're elongated and they're full of the Holy Spirit, and they only have tiny little feet to tether them to the ground, because really they're billowing away, and so often their gowns and their clothes are shown as sort of fluttering because they have no weight, and those tiny little feet are just tethering them to the ground in the lightest possible way. That's all symbolism. Icons do have a battered life. They get touched and kissed and they do start to fall apart. They are literally loved to bits. And then sometimes you would take your icon to a priest or a holy figure in the community who makes icons and have the icon repaired and freshened up. Well, I enjoy it profoundly and I wouldn't call myself religious. But when I come into this space, I have a sense of what it is to be religious and to believe in something larger than myself. The sound of Orthodox music just lifts you and fills you with an extraordinary sense of peace, and you do not have to know the language or be part of the tradition to feel it. When you connect it with the images, it becomes like this amazing fusion of a static, timeless image with this sound that just sort of rises to heaven. So this is one of the most beautiful and engaging religious art forms, and that's really, I think, one of the keys to the success of Orthodoxy, is that they've always got these images that draw people back to Christ and the Gospels and the Scriptures, and connect people with those ancient stories. I think that the icon is really Orthodoxy's secret weapon.